Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, capital markets analyst and host of your Cannabis Business Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about pre-rolls, why you should leave it to the experts, as well as 5 predictions for the pre-roll sector of the cannabis industry. Dan Chemist is here in person to help us talk about pre-rolls from California, as well as Ryan Porter. He is the founder and CEO of Toptender. It is a platform for bud tender education. Gentlemen, thank you for being here for this pre-roll edition.
I dig it, Chronic. I'm actually here, and he's here. He's smart.
Nice to be here.
So, Ryan, we're going to jump into 5 reasons why you should leave pre-rolls to the experts, while Dan lights up something. What do you got there? You've got a ruby fruit. So this is straight out of California. Ruby fruit kind of looks like pain medication would come out of here, but it is a pre-roll.
I don't know how it got here, Chronic. It makes no sense how it got into Washington.
Definitely didn't.
No clue.
Definitely didn't bring it himself. It just came here. So as me and Dan kind of test this, judge this, we're also going to talk about pre-rolls and why you should leave it to the experts. Apparently it makes life easier, right? So it's about convenience. I think, to me, surprisingly, the demographics of women over 50 years old being the number one demographic buying pre-rolls. It's about convenience. It's also about discreetness, but it's definitely makes life easier.
I think it's also a little bit of like heritage. Like everyone likes to smoke a joint. So when you think about your childhood, it's probably pretty common.
Yeah, there's a ritual to that for sure. There's something about that, puff, puff, pass, not fucking up the rotation, of course. And so, yeah, all about convenience and making life easier. And people don't know how to roll. So if you're going to buy one, you might as well make it really easy.
Guilty as charged.
Hey, Ryan, wouldn't you say that one of the things that happens with pre-rolls is they have like a better reputation than they actually perform in hand? Because I find a lot of the pre-rolls in store, right, that we get really inconsistent performance. That's part of why I grabbed a grip out of Cali. I just want to see. And so like right here, we're seeing some collapsing. It's not burning real level. I mean, again, it's not to denigrate them. It's to denigrate pre-rolls in general, I guess.
Yeah.
You can see at the base here where it starts to cave in.
You suck so hard, though.
And so what they do is they don't pack it initially at the base very well. I also don't like elements. I find that elements are consistently, you can see how this one is canoeing a little bit, just a little bit. I'm just not convinced that this paper is thick enough or of high quality enough, or it's just the grind and the people who buy elements are consistently making them improper, either with a poor grinder, not letting it dry before they fill it, not packing it properly. Not really sure what the deal is, but I consistently see joints that have elements paper not packed properly.
I see elements. I'm not familiar with who or what is elements, For me, it's kind of interesting. I definitely pay attention to what's in there, whether it's like a raw or whether it's, elements.
I think it's more up to the individual. I'm not going to blame elements, but it's just something that I noticed because it's the only brand on the joint, right?
And that's what's funny. I saw Raw recently really talking about they'll do branded crutches inside.
I think that we're going to get into, the future and definitely better filters are a part of pre-rolls future in the crystal ball prediction. Quality hopefully is in there too, because I would disagree that saying that quality is consistent in pre-rolls. I don't think it's floor trimmings as it used to be, but it's not colas, it's not A grade, it's kind of whatever they can get. And as of lately, it's been some moldy stuff, out of sight, out of mind. Mold to gold, extractions and edibles, pre-rolls, which you can't see. You might be popping for mold, infused and uninfused.
Absolutely, yeah. I recall when we first saw that here in Washington. I think it was a turning point for you. But it came out that, hey, we're in a really wet area. It's gonna be really common depending on the shelf life. How long the pack's been sitting around. For me, I can tell you, it did cross my mind. I'm still going for ease and oftentimes grab some single tubes.
So with Toptender, do you educate around like teaching bud tenders how to differentiate, how to communicate that stuff? I mean, how does Toptender take that on?
So Toptender doesn't specifically take on the content of the education. We do have a great partnership with Green Flower Media based out of Southern California. They've got a handful of cannabis 101s. It's not a topic yet, like getting into the specific products, but I think it'll be something we'll see from them in the future. Beyond that, where Toptender really helps is we allow for the brands to tell their story. And so, for instance, I do hear a lot of brands talking about full flower pre-rolls. And if that's the case, that's a big selling point. I think it's really important that if there's 4,000, 5,000 bud tenders selling your product, if they know that, they're going to sell it better.
Agreed. Yeah. And these days you can actually find good pre-rolls. It's part of why we go out and do the pre-roll thing. But the trick, right, is, again, you don't know until you're burning it. And so this is where bud tender education and all of that stuff comes into play, right? To alert you to that shape, that's flower, brother.
Yep.
Well, how do you feel about being more stylish? So the third point on why to leave pre-rolls to the professionals is it's just a more stylish way to smoke. I would kind of agree that smoking out of a pipe might look to be more like a crackhead. If you don't know what's going on and you see somebody like roasting a bowl, it looks weird. And whereas unfortunately it looks more like a cigarette with a pre-roll. But yeah, number 3 is more stylish way to smoke.
I've never used the word stylish coming out of my mouth for it,
Right.
But I agree with, I think, the sentiment there that, if let's, I don't know where Dan was in California, but I got a feeling he probably wants to have a joint,
Definitively. So I went down to Newport Beach and then worked my way back up. I went and stood in the ocean a lot, Ryan, and along the way, I have to say, yes, the fact is, standing in the Pacific with a joint in your hand somehow seems to go together pretty well. It really does.
Yeah. It's controllable, right, too? Like you can let your hands down and just stand there.
Right.
So the fourth and fifth point is that it's a great value with endless options. So if you want to just try something, sometimes you can get pre-rolls for as low as $1. Infused, you can pay $15. And if you have hash, they're $40 per pre-roll. And so lots of options, whether you have a specific size that you want. They're surprisingly quarter-gram joints are increasing in popularity. Obviously, strain specific for a discerning customer is important, and then finding that right cultivar for whatever the experience that you're anticipating. Countless options.
So just an example. I mean, these are just some of the California examples, but here, so we'll do one of those just with regards to packaging and all of that, right? And then each of these is frankly radically different with regards to content. I mean, yeah, they're all marijuana joints, but they're radically different strains. One's a blunt, blah, blah, blah. The point being, yeah, if you like your cannabis, there are a lot of options with regards to pre-rolls. And, let's face it, it's fun to experiment and learn for science.
Speaking of, it's time to bust open that next one.
Well, one thing I see out of the pre-rolls, especially in California, that I think is kind of cool, but I was really expecting Dan to come back with some Higgs. Higgs is one where I've seen their packaging, I really love it, and it comes from like extreme passion of the creator of it, right? And so I think that's what we're seeing out of some of these brands that are starting with pre-rolls is like their only product in the line, is it's coming out of like they're making the product they want. Now maybe that's not what thousands and millions of others want, but at least they're making what they want, and so they're really passionate about it. And if you're passionate about it, I think you're going to want the good flower in it too. So that makes me happy.
So I had this experience with Lowell's Herb Co. where very high range, wonderful full flower, full gram joint, etc. That same kind of thing, right? Where somebody actually taking the time to make it right, do it right. One of the things that I really enjoyed about California, Ryan, is boy, they got a nice cannabis culture down there, right? It's really ingrained. So again, their baseline seems to be a little higher than Washington or Oregon's baseline with regards to both quality, style, outcome. So I dig that.
It's about that passion, right? It's also about that heritage too. So they've been doing it so long. They're ahead of the game. They basically created the cannabis extractions and lead trends and everything else. And so what we found is that Colorado kind of finds California's cannabis trends about 6 months after they become popular in Cali, and Washington is like a year after that. And so with that, let's transition into 5 predictions for the pre-roll sector. as me and Dan here roast on some Pacific Sunset
Sour diesel sherbet.
sour diesel sherbet. What's the number one prediction you've got, Ryan? Before we even get into this article, neither one of us has really looked at this. What do you think is going to happen?
We're talking across the entire nation.
Let's say the world. No. Let's say the galaxy.
Ooh.
What's
The
going to
galaxy.
happen with pre-rolls in the entire galaxy?
My biggest prediction is we're going to see somebody come out with a better process for like the monthly box.
Mm.
You know, I think it's nothing that I've seen cracked that well so far in cannabis. But I think as our laws get a little more progressive, we're going to see the like $10 a month, like random package show up, giving me all sorts of new pre-rolls.
It's going to require some legislation. Ease would be the delivery service in theory, but Washington doesn't have that yet. So hopefully that is a crystal ball prediction that we'll have some delivery to allow that. All right. So the number one, or at least let me see that. The first prediction that we've got right here from ganjapreneur.com for pre-rolls is smaller pre-rolls and more multi-packs. So we just kind of talked about how quarter gram were increasing in popularity. And then you see brands like Saints. I think they're based out of Washington, aren't they, Saints?
I've seen them, yeah.
They have beautiful packaging. And so that kind of, maybe it's attractive to children though. So I don't know if they'll be around.
Oh,
But the multi-packs that they have, where you can give an indica, hybrid, sativa, multiple sizes, multiple options, definitely trending.
hey, so I think there's going to be a brand. I think what we're going to see is finally somebody's going to do like a national brand, even if it's got to be regionalized, right? Where, Tommy or Larry or whoever has got their Washington, their Oregon, their Cali operation, but finally we're going to see one brand.
I think that's going to come from automation. So I've been looking at pre-roll, blunt, and cylindrical joint automation for 5-6 years now, and the companies that were trying to do that tobacco based weren't really interested. The shake weight tables you're seeing are, you fill it by volume, not going to be around. And in fact, cone shapes are not going to be around. I think it's going to take a few more years, but the draw has been perfected by both cigar and cigarettes. And the milliliters per minute on that draw is the experience, the ideal experience that smokers want, whether it's tobacco or cannabis. And a cone doesn't give you that ideal draw, that experience. And so with automation, I think we're going to see, like Dan said, a national brand. But I also think we're going to start to see some cool stuff where there's customization. If you've ever been married or know somebody who has, you can have your name on everything, anything. And so, whether it's your birthday or a company, anniversary, you can have customized joints, blunts, pre-rolls, whatever. And it's going to come out like Organogram rolling 40,000 pre-rolls a day. That only comes with automation, which is the second point to this pre-roll prediction.
Yeah, I know you've been following it, and you were the first person that really spoke to me about the cylinders versus the cones. And I like the cones. It makes it so easy to pack it. So that'll be a change for me, but I can live with that.
Yeah, but now from the perspective of consistent delivery, right? Because of the cone shape, the way each draw, as you get further into the cone, you actually are drawing less product, right? So that whole thing from a wellness and patient perspective, in that, okay, so you can see Josh has sucked too hard again and collapsed our joint some. I've been good. I've been lightly puffing because I'm old and a professional. Okay. And then like in this case, at this point, I mean, honestly, I just want to fling it, that's how I am. Right.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Sometimes I rip it off and throw it into the bubbler or whatever. But yeah, that's all about experience, right? You have to kind of provide that unique experience. A lot of calls I'm getting for automated equipment are manufacturers of hemp, and they want pre-rolls for the international market. Obviously, you have to scale every time you go to another state. With hemp, you don't have to do that. You get one piece of equipment, and then you start manufacturing for multiple states or international. And so there's a lot of people making hemp pre-rolls. I had one at the Indo Expo almost 2 years ago thinking it was going to be a novelty. I was going to hit it one time. It was going to be dry and nasty, and I ended up smoking the whole damn thing.
Ryan, you burn many hemp pre-rolls? Have you done that yet?
I have not. I've seen some friends doing it, primarily in California, the ones that look like cigarettes. But what's the flavor like out of them?
You know, it's interesting. It is a little hard. So I am our roaming CBD correspondent, right? And so one of the things I do a lot of is burn CBD pre-rolls just to see. I have yet to find anything that makes me say to myself, "Ooh, this is awesome." I did on this last run. I had one of the homies hand me some 17% CBD pre-rolls. And I mean, they were, how about this? I could actually feel the CBD. Normally when I deal with CBD, I don't, right? But in this case, no, it's like, whoa, I feel relaxed.
The one I had tasted pretty much the same as cannabis. I couldn't really taste the difference. It wasn't dry, it wasn't harsh. And it was just kind of a nice little smooth experience. But there's a lot of people in Pennsylvania and weird places that I'm getting calls from for this equipment, and they're trying to target the tobacco market to help people transition off or have a more healthy alternative. So we could see a lot more tobacco smokers switching as well.
Yeah, very cool.
So we already touched on kind of variety of pre-rolls, size, shapes, whatever. Is there anything in your crystal ball, Ryan, that you think is going to happen with a variety of cannabis? Blunts, for example?
Well, man, I think it just goes back to like, I see some people buying, the jar of joints. It's been something popular here in Washington, packaging of 28 joints. I want to buy 28 joints. And I don't want them all to be the same.
Right.
So to me, that's where I thought I think the box could be really cool. I think though, on the joint packs, like you guys called out, I think that does it. I've just been kind of waiting for that like bigger buy, because why not? Like, it's also like, I don't know, it's kind of like the roulette. Like if I get a good one, like I'm enjoying them, I'd rather have 28 of them or something.
Mm-hmm. I dig that attitude. So I spent a lot of time hanging out with our pals at Boggy Boon. Mm-hmm. And recently I had a couple of jars of joints, and the fun of, like you say, some mixed, right? And yet quality across the board. So I dig that.
Give me some rainbow shake, right?
Yeah, actually, I don't mind that. I got 13 pounds of that from a friend and made some really good hash, and threw it in the little, machine, and a couple pounds at a time, did it over about 3-4 days, and I don't know, had almost a pound of hash. About a lot of work.
Ryan, we're stepping up our game. We've moved to the Fun Dip pre-roll from Fog City Farms. First, they use a very substantive jar. Okay, I like it. It's a joint tube, but it's like a serious joint tube. And then look at that bad boy. Here.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
Right?
Okay.
And it's great quality. Now they do the twisty. Not a big fan of the twisty. I like the right, but again, and of course, yet another cone.
Yeah, that's a more common, the twist on the top rather than the fold. But is that only 1 gram?
Yeah, it's tightly packed.
That's a scary brand name.
Yeah, interesting. So yeah, we've got a blunt over there too. So we've got some variety. What we don't have a lot of variety on is the filters. It's all kind of the same style, like cone filter, right? So
yes, and then so this is about half of what I acquired in California, because I stopped a lot of times on the beach, and I had some other things with me, but at the same time, I burned part of our show stock on the way.
Yeah, you had to do your own testing.
Well,
yeah, he wouldn't have made it home otherwise.
I am what I am.
So the last prediction here is selective filter technology is going to be developed for advanced filtration. Something probably between what you're seeing now with the cardboard and something with tobacco.
I gotta interject. Classic. Right now, again, whether or not it's how we're drawing or how it was packed, that's not a good thing, man. Not on your $12 or $15 joint. Now, again, we're professionals. We know how to operate a joint. Come on.
Yeah. It needs to be able to handle people like us who are just ripping into it.
On this advanced filtration, this is something I kind of get a little worried about. What's happening in the cannabis industry right now, because I think I'm guessing, and I'm not an expert in this area, but on the advanced filtration, I think we probably have like some technology that needs to develop to make this at low cost. And so I look at there's, probably a lot of upfront CapEx expense to move us forward on this area. And I'm afraid that as we enter into this, this unknown time for funding of new businesses and new technology, that we're going to put a pause on this type of stuff, and that it's not, the funding's not going to be there because no one will take the risk because they're too concerned on, the cash flow.
Funny you should mention that. One of the things we're seeing is the complexity of a market becoming essentially data aware, right? In the beginning, there wasn't any data, so you could make all kinds of assumptions. Now there's starting to be market data, like what actual marijuana price is per gram in scale, and the illustration of a capital market that's starting to look around and go, I'm not so sure, maybe we should take a zero off the predictions. All right, so our fund dip is making me sad. Now, I did what I could, okay? I went over here and I tried several different times to fix it. Now, I'm going to try again, but I mean, come on now.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. But to your point, Ryan, that when in 2015, when we saw Lighter Bro and Casher and some of these ancillary business come up with some creative stuff, it almost just dried up. Like there wasn't any risk tolerance for creative, potential failing companies. And yet you see the speculation into the LPs in Canada at like no avail. I mean, we've had obviously 50-60% retracement since, but initially people didn't care. And even MedMen's CEO said he was spending without a care. There wasn't anybody holding him accountable until now, where they're actually looking at valuations.
There was articles this morning about MedMen having to downsize, right? Again, it's an interesting time.
Yeah. So this article talks about the filtration and says, quote, compared to traditional cotton filters, which catch anything and indiscriminately filter out a little bit of everything from the smoke, the idea behind the selective filtration technology is a filter medium that filters out the bad stuff that passes through all the beneficial cannabinoids. Compared to edibles, which have a very slow absorption rate, smoking cannabis has almost immediate absorption into your body. So selective filtration technology will be seen as a huge advancement in the medical community. That's weird because they should probably be smoking, right? I mean, maybe that's my opinion.
Yeah, we're gonna have to put a meter on you guys and see how many samples you test in the next year.
One of the things that we've come to realize, and I'm not trying to be sarcastic about it at all, is you don't just check, you check back, right? So I've been in over 1,800 dispensaries, Ryan. Some of them now are gone, right? Some of them are under new ownership. Some of them, the crew's been purged twice, 3 times, etc. So the nature of how are things? Well, things change day to day. And so the energy that goes around, I mean, yeah, these are all California and these are unique to us, no doubt. But the energy that goes around being able, what it takes you to have your expertise in terms of energy, right? Same gig here. We spend a lot of bread. We spend a lot of time. It might look like we're get highs, but in the end, it's data people need. So somebody has to do the work.
Yeah, I mean, companies are unique, but the experience is not. I would add one more prediction is that infused joints are not going to be allowed. We saw in Washington State infused cannagars were not allowed, and his sales volume plummeted. There's a report here that talks about not allowing infused pre-rolls, and so we'll see if that holds up.
Before you guys do that, okay. So at this point, we're going to chuck it because we've gotten into the end, and we continue to work at fixing it. And again, your experience might be different than ours. You might burn these and find them wonderful. I find they're...
I'm gonna draft up the invoice. We'll send it to them for all the work.
Right. I don't want my bread back, but I will say this. From a production standpoint, I love their packaging, but gosh, my first experience was subpar. So I feel bad about that for me.
That's a lot of money.
That is. That's what I don't want. I don't want to spend, $15 and then be unhappy after that.
Right. There's going to be a lot of unhappy producers and processors. Oh, we're going to do what is that?
That's be more blunt.
Oh, we're going to do a blunt. Well, so yeah, that's going to be interesting because you can do hemp blunts. That might take over the infused market because if you can't do infused, which has huge increases. I mean, there's been 4 to 7 times more infused sales versus regular pre-rolls. And then if that market is regulated out, maybe hemp blunts are to take over just by the sheer size of it. Not really sure. We'll have to find out.
All right. So this was harvested on 7/17, or date tested, excuse me. And then it's a 1.2 gram Sonoma Cake Premium Cannabis Be More Blunt. Why don't you spark that thing up? And first give it a quick illustration.
It is folded at the end, which we like. It's got a nice little wood tip.
I dig their packaging. Oh, I dig it. Ryan, thanks so much for being on the show and doing the whole thing and being so smart, brother.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. Sorry I didn't get to join in.
Yeah, right?
With that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is The Talking Hedge. By the way, if you enjoy the content, please show your support with the cushy gesture of $4.20 a month on the Talking Hedge's Patreon page. This will kind of help you spread the word. I've been asked to speak all over the world, from Toronto and Colombia, Spain, Miami, all over, Tokyo. But your support's important to me. I haven't monetized the podcast. I want to be as authentic and transparent as possible. I want to avoid conflicts of interest or even the perception of paid opinions. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or pay me on the Talking Hedges Patreon page, or don't, and I'm out.